Now, my friends, it seems increasingly likely that April showers will come your way over the weekend. In fact, we're talking to the Met Office later on in the programme. So it's the perfect time to think, what can you watch on the TV when the football's over and done and, by the way, dusted? Well, I've got a couple of thoughts, but so is Van Connor, our main man when it comes to all Freeview movie recommendation matters. And here he is now, once again, for us, one of the country's best film critics and also the host of the Off-Screen podcast, more of which and on. So good morning, Van. How's your week been? Have you seen any biggies this week for us?
Hey, how you doing? It's Ross. I've seen some interesting ones this week. I saw the prequel to the, not The Exorcist, The Omen. The other one, of course. Easy ones to mistake those two, aren't they? The first Omen, that's out in cinemas today.
Should be a good idea. I quite like I like the third Omen, which doesn't get mentioned, I think, when you've got, is it Sam Neill playing the adult Damien? That's
Sam Neill, yeah.
Strange film, but a good film. What's your first recommendation, though, on the Freeview front for this morning? It's a film, in fact, I know what it is, and I love this movie, and I'm waiting for the two sequels, Somebody and Anybody.
Would that be a great titling system, I think. So Nobody is on Film 4 tonight at 9 o'clock, directed by hardcore Henry Helmer, Ilya Naishuller. This came out in 2021, was made by the 87 North guys who, came up with the John Wick series, gave us Violent Night, Atomic Blonde, movies like that. And this stars Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul alum Bob Odenkirk as effectively a sort of suburban nobody, a downtrodden, meek beta husband who, owing to a home break-in one night, finds a long dormant side of himself unleashed in a violent, cathartic, explosive, murderous rampage. It's good fun. You've seen this one?
I've seen it a couple of times. I saw it at the cinema and I did enjoy it, and I watched it again on the small screen. I thought they've got to go for a couple of sequels on this one, surely.
Absolutely. And she's got a great supporting cast. Connie Nielsen, Christopher Lloyd and the RZA in there. Christopher Lloyd in particular is really fun. The movie is just a great time. It's just got some absolutely terrific action sequences. One that you'll have seen on TikTok or on socials quite a bit will have been the bus sequence. And it's worth the movie just for that alone. But Bob Odenkirk is genuinely terrific and good fun. We are getting a sequel, as you say. So catch up, Film 4 tonight, 9 o'clock. I give you Nobody, in which the bad guys are coming to dinner.
Marvellous stuff. Where can we see this one again, man?
Tonight, Film 4 at 9.
Looking forward to it. Here we go, folks.
Hey, how about we all head to Italy this summer? We've always talked about going back.
It would be wonderful.
Because, Rome is where Mom and Dad met.
Mom and Dad fell in love.
Must be one of the children.
Everybody get to the basement.
What?
Right now. Let's go. Move. Move.
Dad, what
Right
is
now.
happening? Hutch,
Move.
you're scaring
Go.
me. What is going on?
Get the door, son.
It's a game.
Yes, is this a game, Hutch?
I like games.
Hutch, what is happening?
Don't call 911.
That is a great chilling clip there. That is a cracking clip to find. Nobody, which I'm looking forward to seeing again. Now, my first recommendation is on 5:30 this afternoon on Great Exclamation Mark Action, which is a Freeview channel, Great Action. And it's from 1966. And it's one of those films that people often either haven't seen or completely forget about when they talk about Steve McQueen's career, because we regard him as the kind of king of cool. And when you think of him as kind of, this Mr. Independent filmmaking. But he had a couple of really big films in the 60s and 70s that were, obviously he was in Towering Inferno. He was in the first version, the best version of Papillon, which made a lot of money in the 70s with Dustin Hoffman. But in 1966, he starred as an American sailor in the Yangtze River on a boat, of course, a big patrol ship, an American patrol ship, in a film called The Sand Pebbles. Richard Attenborough's in it as well, and it's about rebellion, revolution, problems there, and America's patrolling it as a kind of almost river police, waterways police. It's a love story. It's got a sweeping kind of panoramic location shooting, and most of it Steve McQueen was there for, and it was the fourth biggest grossing film of 1966. I've seen it once on the big screen, and a couple of times I've seen chunks of it on the small screen. It's not been on for a long time, and I can't think why, because it's old fashioned. Yes, at times it's a bit slow. There's some good action in it, and Steve McQueen, as always, is when he's I think he's a fascinating actor. I can see why he likes to strip the dialogue out of his films, because when he's just thinking or reacting, I think he's one of our finest and most underrated screen actors. And it is a film in which he's directed by the Sound of Music, West Side Story, and edited Citizen Kane, Robert Wise. So it's a real old Hollywood coming together with new Hollywood, big sweeping film. And there were loads of films like around this, like there was, I think it's called 99 Days in Peking, about the Boxer Rebellion with Charlton Heston. There was all those kind of modern day-ish epics, some of which worked, like Krakatoa East of Java definitely did not work. This one, though, is a solid, old-fashioned, good old kind of travelogue blockbuster. An interesting ending. I won't say any more than that. 5:30, great action. That's on later on today, and I've got a chunk of the very 1960s trailer.
The camera has never captured such visual excitement, such a vast, revealing spectacle of the Orient, of an American gunboat patrolling its troubled waters, and of the handful of strangers caught up in its intrigue.
He is a murderer! He killed a Chinese woman who was carrying a child!
Steve McQueen as Jake Holman, the young, restless outsider. And Candice Bergen as Shirley Eckert, who understood this land she loved, but not the man she wanted.
It ain't gonna work, Shirley.
Why? It's good up there, Jake. It can be a good life.
It can be a good life, but will it turn out to be? We'll tune into these Sand Pebbles. I'll record it this afternoon, 5:30, on Great Action. Meanwhile, we've got Van's second recommendation for tomorrow. This is another belter, but rather different to Nobody. It's a rather broader sweep, shall we say, your second recommendation.
Well, weirdly, this has ties to Nobody, because David Leitch, who directed it, is part of the 87 North John Wick kind of scene. So it has ties as well. It's the 2019 Fast and Furious spin-off. To date, the only spin-off in the series. Hobbs and Shaw, starring Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, as their respective Fast and Furious characters, spin off into their own team-up adventure that effectively plays like that series' more ridiculous answer to Tango and Cash, of all things, that sees the ultimate lawman and the ultimate spy forced to team up, whether they like it or not, to save the world from a nanovirus at the hands of a man who describes himself as Black Superman, played by Idris Elba, a cybernetically enhanced super soldier.
Yes.
It's absolute lunacy.
Yeah. Bonkers, but great fun, these films. Like this takes it to 11.5, I would say, this one.
Oh, absolutely. This is not even, no semblance of reality in this one. This does not exist in the same universe where they were stealing DVD players. But you can enjoy it in fine beer and pizza time slot accordingly, as it should be, on Saturday night at 9 p.m. on the dot on 5 Star. And I think it's a cracking Saturday night beer and pizza movie. I haven't seen this in a while. I'd be tempted to revisit this.
Great fun. You've heard when it's on and how you can catch it. What clip have you got for us, Van?
I've got, of course, Hobbs and Shaw facing off for the first time, and you know what? Trading some opinions, we'll politely say.
They give great bicker. Here we go.
That's it. You just reminded me. That's exactly why I hate working with you. It's your voice. It's your nasally, prepubescent Harry Potter voice. Every time you speak, just imagine this for a second. It's like dragging my across shattered glass. And it hurts.
Well, for me, it's not your voice. It's your face. Your big, stupid face. Looking at it makes me feel like God is projectile vomiting right in my eyes. And it burns. It really burns.
I'm getting deja vu because that's exactly the same conversation Stuart and I had before the programme. Funny that, isn't it? I thought he made up the insults himself opposite. It says good film, a good fun film, and I've got one of my favourite films in the 1980s, a film I must have watched, quite honestly, literally dozens of times with my son James, because it was not a big hit at the box office, to put it mildly, directed by John Carpenter. It's kind of dipped his toe into like mainstream Hollywood land, didn't particularly like it, went back to more independent films. It's Big Trouble in Little China, starring Kurt Russell from 1986. He worked with Kurt 4 or 5 years before on, of course, Escape from New York. This is a rather different fantasy film that began life, as I'm sure you're aware, Van, as almost a full-on Western with some martial arts overtones. The studio weren't happy with that script, although the writers got full credit, which is a bit of a travesty, because it was transformed completely into a modern, weird, occult, martial arts, very funny thriller, and basically tells the story of a truck driver, played by Kurt Russell, of course, called Jack Burton, who helps a friend of his rescue a green-eyed woman, who happens to be this guy's fiancée, from bandits in Chinatown. They want to marry her off to somebody because, you know, an ancient sorcerer, I think, can live forever if he marries a green-eyed woman or something. The plot doesn't really matter. The jokes, the special effects, and some of the absolutely ludicrous breaking the fourth wall aside to the camera do. Kim Cattle's in it as well for added oomph. And it's on, you can find this one, my friends, 9 o'clock on 5 Action, right after Waterworld. So it's an interesting, very different double bill. Waterworld didn't make much money either, but turned into a theme park ride at Universal for a while. It's Big Trouble in Little China from 1986. As I say, 5 action, 9 o'clock. Here we go. Here's a burst of the trailer, which is almost as incomprehensible as parts of the film.
There is a hidden world where ancient evil weaves a modern mystery.
What's going on here? Is this some kind of...
Magic. The darkest magic.
They call it Little China.
Finally, we shall bring order out of chaos.
It's where Big Trouble was waiting for Jack Burton.
Who? Jack Burton. Me.
Jack?
They told him to go to hell.
You make one move.
And that's just where he's going.
Somebody, I don't care who, tell me what is going on.
Nobody can, Kurt. You're never going to work out what's going on in that film, but it's an absolute romp, this one. Was this on your watch list back in the 90s?
Oh, yes. I mean, this is kind of the concluding chapter of the Carpenter Kurt Russell trilogy. You know, you get Escape from New York, The Thing, and then this. And they're all 3 bangers in their own right. And all, of course, massive cult hits.
I interviewed Kurt Russell once. He came on The Big Breakfast, bizarrely, and I interviewed him for another show I was doing, and they never used the interview, which is a real shame because, you know, I did my usual ramshackle job. He was so forthcoming and so funny about his career. And I said to him, I understand that you were a bit hesitant about doing Big Trouble in Little China. He said, yeah, he said, I read the script half a dozen times. He said, I read it and I talked it over with, you know, with Goldie Hawn, his partner. He said, and I couldn't get a hook on the character. I couldn't work out the character. And Goldie suddenly said to him, apparently, it doesn't matter. Now, what's the thing about the character? You've got people who are doing magic in the middle of Chinatown in New York in the 1980s. Don't worry, because he said we just had a great time filming it. So, you know, fantastic movie, mad, fun film. And my final recommendation is, for me, this was an absolute revelation. I don't know how well it stood the test of time. I've not seen this film by the Coen brothers. Kind of their breakthrough film, in fact. Edited, produced and directed by Joel and Ethan Coen, called Blood Simple, which is on 1:50 a.m. in the wee small hours of Sunday morning. So after midnight Saturday, 10 to 2, it's a Sunday film on Film 4. And basically it's an old, it sounds like a film noir, but with a very 80s twist. It follows a Texas bartender. He's having a love affair with his boss's wife. And when the boss discovers this, he hires a really seedy, rundown, hideous, amoral private eye, played by the brilliant, seedy, amoral Emmett Walsh, to kill the couple. And it's the first major film of Barry Sonnenfeld as a cinematographer, who wanted to direct some rather interesting films himself as well. So basically you've got violence, Texas, a bar, a cheating wife, a furious husband, and a private eye. You've got a movie, basically, and this is, for my mind, it's one of the best films of the 1980s. I haven't seen this for about 10 years, though, so I hope I'm not disappointed. Have you seen Blood Simple recently, Van?
I actually covered the 4K reissue. I had to review it. I think it was about two years or so ago, because I hadn't seen it in a long time. So it was the first Coen Brothers movie, and also the screen debut for Frances McDormand, and the film has aged surprisingly well. Like it, especially in its new cleaned up form in the 4K restoration, it looks tremendous. It looks gorgeous, but also it's still just a great movie in its own right.
And you may know this, but the train spotter in me knows that the title, Blood Simple, comes from a Dashiell Hammett novel, the man who created Sam Spade, the Maltese Falcon Sam Spade, called Red Harvest. And he uses the term Blood Simple to describe the kind of almost dopey, dazed mindset of people after they've gone through a really violent, horrible, traumatic situation. They're blood simple. Violence has rendered them stupid, as does passion in this film. So, very good film. Not the easiest to watch at times. I remember with a degree of fondness, the shock it caused in me and people in the cinema when somebody's trying to reach from one window into another, and just watch out for that is what I'd say on that front. But you can catch this film, it's a belter, 1:50 a.m, wee small hours of Sunday morning on Film 4. You've got to love this film. Here's the trailer.
The world is full of complainers. The fact is, nothing comes with a guarantee. Something can all go wrong.
Hello.
Having a good time?
Who's it?
Your husband.
The more I think about it, the more irritated I get. I got a job for you.
If it's right and it's legal, I'll do it.
It's not strictly legal.
It's right. I'll do it. You want me to kill him?
Hold it.
film that has a Detroit expat strutting his funky stuff in a Texas bar has got my vote. And this is a great double bill, folks, with another 80s attempt, not as good, but close to reinvent film noir for the 80s, Body Heat, William Hurt's film. So Body Heat and Blood Super,
yes.
A great double bill on that front. So those are my 3 recommendations, very different films. You're ending with something appetising, I think, Van Connor.
Absolutely. One of in my estimation, the finest works of cinema ever constructed. It's The Silence of the Lambs from 1991, which famously became, I think it was the 3rd movie ever to win what we refer to as the Big 5 Oscars. It won Best Picture, it won Best Director, it won Best Actor, Best Actress, and one of the screenplay nods, in this case Best Adapted Screenplay, because it was adapted from a Taurus Harris novel of the same name. It's the second story to feature Hannibal Lecter, the incarcerated psychiatrist turned mass murdering cannibal. This time he is the consultant, being requested by the FBI to offer his insights on a new serial killer known as Buffalo Bill, who is targeting women of a certain physical archetype. This, of course, involves a young FBI recruit, Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster in this iteration, who is the point person between Lecter and the FBI, and with whom Lecter develops a sort of weird obsession that will propel a truly terrible sequel after this. But I've got a clip for you of the very first time that these two meet, and what a chilling movie this is. It's one of those movies I see every 6 months to a year, like clockwork, and it still holds up. It's still an absolute masterpiece. So you can see this Sunday night, 10:15 on ITV4. I've got a clip for you. This is the very first meeting between Clarice Starling and Dr. Hannibal Lecter.
I could murder a nice Chianti. Here we go.
Good morning.
Dr. Lecter, my name is Clarice Starling. May I speak with you?
You're one of Jack Crawford's, aren't you?
I am, yes.
May I see your credentials?
Certainly.
Closer, please. Closer. That expires in 1 week. You're not real FBI, are you?
Ooh, there's no fooling Hannibal Lecter, is there? One of the brightest men on planet Earth, if also one of the most lethal. Huge thanks, man, for those great recommendations. Between us, we covered them 6, people can't complain about that, 6 very different films, some other fine films in there as well. And tell us about Off Screen. Is it dropping later on this morning, your latest podcast?
Yes, you can hear us on podcast platforms from 8 a.m, talking about the big hitters of the week, which of course Monkey Man with Dev Patel, the one that Jordan Peele's produced, and the first Omen, as I say. So it's going to be an interesting week. Also, One Night in Mill Street, the Steve Collins, Chris Eubank documentary. That one you might be aware of, I think. But that's out this week. We're talking about that too.
And catch Van Connor and me next Friday on talkSPORT and talkRADIO, talking Freeview film recommendations for your weekend. But for the time being, that's a wrap. Cheers, Van.